So today we are just starting the Java methods. What is that methods? I have already told you that the Java methods that we all know, that C and C++, that is the ABCD of programming language. Okay, that is mandatory for to learn the C++ for every programmer. So in that C++, we have learned that is a function. That method is the same thing like the C and the C++ having function, Java having methods, that the same thing, that function and the method both are the same thing. The difference is in between that that function and that method only in its name. In C and C++, we called it function. In Java, we called it method. So let's see what is the Java method. A method is a block of code which only runs when it is called. A method is a block of code of that within the Java, that is a code block of code that will run only if you are calling that particular block, then only it will run or execute. Until and unless you are not calling that particular block, until and unless that will not run or that will not execute. That is a method, and you can pass data known as parameters into a method. That within that method we can pass data also. We can pass some data that is called as parameters. We'll learn what is that. That is the simple definition. Methods are used to perform certain action and they are also known as function. I've already told you that is the function and the method both are the same. That methods are used to perform certain action. For doing any kind of certain action, you can use them.
একটু ফোন থেকে কানেক্ট করে নিন ঠিক আছে
And why use method? To reuse code. That method you have created, that it can, you can reuse it multiple times. Define the code once and use it many times. That method, whatever the code you are writing, that using the method, that code will that code you can reuse that, and you can call that multiple times. Okay, now let's see how to create a method. How to create a method. A method must be declared within a class. Obviously, definitely that we have to declare whatever we are doing within the class block, we need to do it. And it is defined within with the name of the method. Like the variable, like the arrays, we have learned that with the like each and every class having separate name, each and every array having separate name, each and every variable that we are declaring, that variable name also having some different name. Like the same, that method also have to be a unique name, have a unique name. And like method, already we have created a method in the previous example, that in the previous session, that whatever the example we have learned, whatever the example we have see, that after creating a class within the class block, we need to, this is the mandatory thing, that we have to create a main method, that is public static void main string args. That is the main method, and there you can't change anything, because that public static void main, and within the round braces you are writing that string args. That thing you cannot change, but because that is the main method and that is the predefined syntax by Java, that whenever you want to create a main method, only that way, only for that particular way, only by using that particular syntax only, you guys can, or we can create a main method. But that method, now we are learning that for that method, that is because that is created by us, that a method we can create also, and that method we can create within the class block. Within the class block, whatever we write, that within the class block, and within the like within the class block we can create that method, and that followed by parenthesis, that round braces, having that round braces. I have already told you that, I have already told you a variable, whenever we are declaring, let me see you some example. Let me see you example. Like whenever we are declaring any kind of variable, that time, uh, let me see you an example. Look, that integer I equals to 0. What is that? That is a variable. That is a normal variable. Int I equals to 0. And integer, that is what? That is a data type. I is the variable name equals to 0. But after that I, there is no round braces. That means that is a variable. And that method having a identifier, that is that round braces. That parenthesis is the identification of, like the array. Whenever you are creating an array, how you are creating an array? That cars, that name, and within that third bracket, that is the square bracket, is the identification of the array. That is an array. Like the method also having an identification, that is whatever whatever the method is, that after the name of that method, if you see that round braces open and close, thought that that is a method, like such as system out of println, and that round braces is there. That means that after that println, that is that method. That is that method, because having that round braces. System out there, that is not the method name. That println is the method name. That is what? That is the predefined by Java. That method. Not only you in Java, like the main method you are creating, that is the syntax of creating that main method. But in Java, you can create a method for yourself by giving any name. Or and in Java, there is some predefined method also that already have been created by Java. That like that println, that is the predefined method by Java, because having that round braces. Whatever, whenever we are writing something, we want to print it. Whenever we want to print it, suppose we want to print a dummy text or dummy paragraph or dummy text or dummy string, that we want to print it in the screen. How we can do that? System.out.println, within the round braces, what we do, within the double quote, we write it. Whatever we are writing, whenever we are executing that program, just because that within the println and within the round braces, we are writing that within the double quotes, that will be printed in the screen as it is. Like that, that place, that parameter, that is a method, like in an example, that you can pass data known as parameter into a method, and whatever you are writing within that round braces, under that round braces, that is called the parameter. We'll see the example that will be more clear, then the things will be more clear. For the timing, I'm just telling you, whatever we are just passing within the double quotes, it is the predefined for using for particular that method, that predefined method, that is the println, that is predefined by Java. That Java already have been declared that method for use. For the using that method, you can print something in the screen. But whenever you are creating a method, by with that method, you can do whatever you want. Like here, and what is that method main? Public class main static void my method. This is the syntax. Actually, basically, this is the syntax. Public class main, we need to create that method within the class block, that in the definition of method, that already have been told you that whatever the method you are creating, that have to create it, that method have to be created within, declared it within the class. Like the same, that is the syntax. Public class main, that is the class, public class, and that main is the name as main. And under that class block, that is the syntax, static void my method. That void, static is the keyword. Void, that means what is that void? There is some return type also. Suppose void means that will not return you anything. You can write system.out.println or anything. But there is some return type method also. We'll see for the timing. Let's see that static void my method by using that syntax, or that static after that void. And here, that is the method name. that method name can be anything. You can give any method name, and as per your requirement, as per your need, as per, like, you have any name you can give to your method. After that, the identification mark, what is that identification mark? That is that round braces. That round braces have to be there, otherwise that will not identify as the method. That if you don't give that method, that time that will become a normal variable. So that round braces open and close, that is the syntax of, that is that my method is a method. And like the class having their have their separate block, having a like main method having their has separate block, like whatever the method you are creating, like static void my method, after that you need to create a separate block for your method also. And under that block, that code, whatever the code you want to execute, that you can write. Let's see a example explain that my method is the name of the method. Static means that method be that method belongs to, that methods belong to main class and not an object of the main class. That static keyword basically, that static keyword mention that, the static keyword mention that that method, whatever the method you are creating, whatever the method you are creating, that method belongs to the main class only, not the name main. Here the main is the name of the class, but this is not the main class. Can anyone just tell me why this is not the main class? Hello? 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 Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can anyone just tell
Yes,
me?
sir. Yes.
Can anyone just tell me just that method, that name is the main, but that class, that class is not the main class. Why? I'm saying that. Can anyone just tell me in the every class that I have already told you that why, how to declare that main class? Why this is not accept as a main class? If I execute something, suppose that method I have created, and under that method I am writing system.out.println, and that whatever some message I have printed, but whenever I will execute that, that will get an error, and because of that class is not the main class. And why is
But
not that?
this
That
because this is the only name.
Yeah, this is the main. So how can I make that class as main class, actual main class?
Public static void main.
Yeah, that's the thing. Whenever, if, until and unless you are not declaring that main class, that is public static void main,
Hmm.
until and unless you are not giving that main class, main method to any class, the
Hmm.
class will not be a main class. Maybe suppose there are five, you are working with, in a single time, that you are working in a five with five classes, but
Hmm.
there should be, under that, from that five classes there should be one main class
One main class.
having that main method. Within that each one, in from that five class, if you are declaring from the, in any one method, on any one class, that you are declaring that main method, that class will be the actual, became the actual main class. Because whenever you will execute the class, whenever you are executing any code, any block of code, that code you are executing, that in the time of execution, that JDK will looking for the that main method. Until and unless that main method will not get by that JDK will not get that main method, that code will not be executed. So every
Hmm.
class have to be there a main class. Then that main method, that is having a main class. That class I have created, that is not the main class, because it don't have that public static void main, that means that main method. So that is not the main method. This is just the syntax. This is that syntax that in the previous, that in the definition time, the time of definition, that have been that method must be declared within a class. That's why that example is here, that whatever the method you are creating, that should be under the class block. And this is the syntax, static void my method, and after that, that round braces, and that curly braces open and close. That is the syntax of creating a method. Okay, now example explain. Now static means that method belongs to the main class and not an object of the main class. That method you are using the static keyword, that means that method you are creating, that belongs to the main class only, not the object of that class. And you will learn more about objects and how to access methods through an object. Okay, no problem. Void means that this method does not have a return value. That void means that method you are creating that does not have a return type. Like return type, that means integer, that any eight primitive data type, that is int, string, boolean, or float, double, like that, that is all are the return type. That means that have a return type. That means if I mention here in the place of void, instead of using void, if I use that integer, that suppose I have write there integer and my method is the name of that method. That means what will happen, that method, I am declaring that method will only return only integer type data. Only integer type data will return, on that method will return. Other that if I want to return some string or float, that method cannot do, because I have already mentioned that is the integer. We are coming on to that return type and all. For the timing, that void does not have a return value. You will learn about return values later in this chapter. Okay. Call a method. To call a method in Java, write the method name followed by two parentheses and a semicolon in the following example. Like I have already told you that that method that you are creating, that can be reused multiple times. That whatever the method you are writing, that can be reused. How you can reuse that? And one thing I have already learned, another thing I have told you, until and unless that method you are creating, you need to call that particular method. Until and unless you are not calling that method, that method will not be executed, or that method you cannot get any kind of input or output from that particular method that you have created, until and unless you are not calling that method. So how to call that method? See the example. See the proper example, that public class main, that is the name of that class I have created. Within that class block, I have created a method that is static void my method. Under that, and then I have created a separate block for that particular method using that curly braces started here, and that curly braces have been ended here. And under that method block, system.out.println, I just wanted to print a message that I just got executed. I just got executed. That means that message
Executed.
will be printed. So that method I have created. So whenever I will call that particular method, that means that message will be displayed in the screen. But if you want to display that particular message into your screen, that can be possible until and only if you are calling that particular method. Like here, after the method, after creating that method, we need to create a main method, so that class can be a main class. So we are writing that public static void main string args, and under that main method block, that is the method by created by us. Okay, and that is the
Mhm.
main method created by Java. That is the syntax created by Java. Only that's using that syntax we can create a main method. And every method should have a separate block. So like the main method also have a separate block. Under that method block, what we are doing, we are calling that method we have created. That is the name is my method.
My method.
My method. So just because I am calling that method, whenever we will execute that example, that program, that method will return you that message that I just got executed. If I don't call that method, that time what will happen? That time that program, whenever you are executing that program will not return you anything. If so, that time if you want to print that message, if you want to use that message, that time you need to call that method. Then only that method will return you something. So this is the syntax. So land that method, that means we have created that method. Okay, that created, you have created that method. Now we can multiple times, not only the one time. Just because I'm writing that here one time, that is not the thing. Whenever, suppose you are writing a code that is, suppose that is like 100 lines of code you are writing, and you want to use that particular message, you want to print it multiple times in the separate places. That time you don't need to write it multiple times. Just call that method name, like that. Just call that method name, and that message will be displayed. Just call that method name, that message will be displayed. That means what? Once we have declared, we have created a method, and I have given something to that method, and that particular thing, that I can reuse multiple times. Whenever I want to use that particular thing, that thing I can reuse multiple times whenever I want. So whenever the I want to execute that particular line, that using that method name I can do it. Is it clear what is how to create that method and how to call that method?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So please everyone, that is just this is a very important topic. Please everyone try to execute that particular program. Okay. Just take 5 minutes. It's 12:35. Within the 12:40, everyone please execute that program and see the output. And try to give some separate name of your method. Not, don't use that particular method name. Try to use
Okay, sir.
separate method name. Is it done, everyone? So I'm going to the next topic. Java method parameters. Hello. Hello, everyone. I'm just going to the next topic. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Okay, sir.
Java method parameters. Parameters and arguments. That parameters and arguments. Information can be passed to method as parameters. Parameter act as variable inside the method. Parameters are specified after the method name inside the parenthesis. You can add as many parameters as you want, just separate them with a comma. Let's see the example. Let's see the example. Now, public class. Try to understand that particular example properly. Public class main static void my method. Static void my method. Try to differentiate in between that two method. That method with under that round braces, I haven't passed any kind of parameters. Any kind of parameters I haven't passed within that that parenthesis. But here, what we are doing, static void my method string f name. That string f name, the way we are declaring a variable, like the data type we are giving, after that giving a name to that variable, after that equals to, and I'm giving a value. Like the same way, first of all, we are declaring a variable here, and the data type is string type. That is called a parameter. Whenever you are declaring within a method block, within the method, you are passing any parameter. That means that is a parameter. And after that, just we are just declared that is the data type is string type and name of that variable is f name. That is the parameter, but we haven't give any value to that particular f name. After that, within the block of that method, what we are doing, system.out.println, we are calling that particular variable name, that is f name, plus that means that is a, that's because this is a string. In the time of string, whenever we are using the plus symbol, that will do the concatenation. That in the previous session I have already told you, with that f name, with the value, that means we are calling that f name. That means maybe I haven't given any value to that f name, but we are calling that f name. That means what, we want to print the value of that f name, plus with the value of f name, plus within the double close quotes, we have write that reference. That is a string. That with the f name we want to print that method, and within the system out of println, what will happen if I don't, suppose if I don't call that f name and that concatenation sign, and if I just write that reference, what will happen? That time, whenever I will call that method, that time that reference, only the reference will be displayed, like the previous example that we have learned. But here I have given a parameters to that particular method, and I am calling that particular parameters, plus I want to print something in the screen with the value. With the value, I am concatenating the value of that f name with that particular thing. That is a string. And if I don't write that parameter name, that time what will happen? That reference will be printed, but I want to print the value with that reference. Now, in the place of that parameter, I have just declared the data type and the variable name, but the value, that any value we haven't give. So now what we are doing, public static void main string args, that main method we are creating. Under that main method block, we are calling that method, that is my method. Now here what we are doing, under that round braces, we are giving the value. Liam, Jenny, and Anja. And that value, that Liam, that value is belongs to that f name. That value we have just declared within the in the place of that parameters, that is the parameters, and that value we are giving here, that is called the arguments, and that arguments is belongs to that f name. Because why we are giving the argument? Because we have declared a parameter that is a string name, and that the name of that parameter is f name. Just because we have declared the data type as string, so, and that's why we have to declare a argument as that is a string type. That's why I have declared that data that is within the double quote, that means that is a string data, and that is called argument, that is called parameters, and that argument belongs to that f name. So that means we are calling that, we have created that method here, we have given the parameters here, and we are giving the arguments for that parameter. We are calling that method. In the time of calling of that method, we are giving the arguments for that particular parameters. And one thing noticed, I have called that my method 3 times, and each and every times I have given separate arguments for that f name method. Okay, so whenever you will execute in the time of variable declaration, what will happen? Suppose if you remember that in the time of declaring any variable, suppose like integer I equals to 10 you have declared. In another line, whenever you are declaring integer I, that same variable name, same data type, same variable name, you are reassigning any new value, what will happen that time? The previous value will be overwritten with the new value. But in terms of method, that will not be happen. You are calling any method, you are calling the method, same method, but just because you are giving the different value, each and every value will be printed, and the output will be that Liam, we want to, what is the output? Whenever I'm calling that method name by using that method name, what will be printed? Under that method, I have declared that system.out.println value of f name and plus reference. That means what will be printed? That is the value plus reference. Liam reference, Johnny reference, Anja reference. That will,
Oh, there is.
is it are you getting what are you getting what I'm trying to explain actually at the
Yes,
top?
sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Yes.
A simple class we have created, that is public class main, that is the name as main. Under that class block we are creating a method. The name of that is the static void, my method is the name, and that under that round basis we are passing a parameter, we are passing a parameter, and that parameter we are passing the data type I have declared as a string. After that, like the every variable, every method, every array, there should be a different name with the data type. Same, that parameters we are declaring, that is kind of variable we are declaring. We are simply, we are the way we are declaring a variable, the same way we are declaring that parameters like the data type. After that we are giving the name of variable name, same thing. But here we are not declaring the value, we are just declared the variable only, and that is called parameter. And we have ended the round that round basis. And just because we have created a method, that means that method should have also a separate block. By using that curly braces open and curly braces close, I have created a separate block for that method. Under that method, what we are doing, just printing something, system.out.println, and what we are printing, we are printing the value of f name. The value of f name, still the value of f name have not been declared, but we are printing the value of f name plus we are concatenating with the reference. That means what? We are concatenating the f name value and the reference string, we are concatenating. And after that, here I haven't given any value to that particular parameters. But here, after declaring in the time of calling of that method, that time in the calling of that method, time of calling of that method, we are giving the value to that parameters. That is the parameters, we are giving the arguments to the parameters, or the giving value to that parameters in the time of calling of that method. And three times I have called that method, and each and every time I have given separate value to that method. That is that method that you can do using. That means what? You are calling that method but giving separate value. That means what? You are that method using that. Otherwise, instead of you, if you want to use that onja absence somewhere, that time what how can I do that? System.out.println onja absence, that the way we can print it. But the bigger lines of code, but you are just calling, just simple call the method, and under that round basis, that argument, whatever the argument you want to pass, that simply right here. That means what? More readability is more better, and you can reuse it multiple times. Is it clear that method with parameters, how we are doing the method of with parameters, and how we are declaring the arguments, how we are declaring the parameters? Is it clear,
Yes, sir.
everyone?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Yes,
So
yes,
please
sir.
everyone execute that example.
Mm. Okay, sir.
Hmm. Don't take too much time. Try to do it as soon as possible.
Yes, sir.
Is it, you have executed the program? Are you getting the
Yes,
three value, three arguments?
yes, sir.
Yes, yes.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
And the others? Hello, everyone have done
Yes,
that?
sir. Done.
Okay. So we are moving to the next topic.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
When a parameter is passed to a method, it is called an argument. So from the example above, f name is a parameter, while Liam, Johnny, Anja are the arguments. Okay, after that, I have already told you. That is now In the previous example, what we have passed a single parameter we have passed. Now the time of multiple parameters. You can have as many parameters as you like. Like suppose not only one parameter in the place of that parameter, only one parameters you can pass. That is not the mandatory thing. You can pass multiple parameter as you like. That you can pass multiple parameter. How you can? Public class main under the class block static void my method is the method name string f name comma integer age int age. That means what? There is here I have created more than one parameters and I have separated them with the comma each and every time each and every time, but you can declare multiple parameters, but you need to separate it with the comma, and each and every time for each and every parameter you are passing each and every time you need to mention the data types of the parameters. Here, the first parameter I have passed that the data type is string, and the second parameter that I have passed that the data type is integer, int age, string f name and the int age. Two parameters I have passed. In the next, within that method block, here that round braces have ended, and now we are starting the block of method by using that curly braces here, and we are ending that method block here. Now, under that block, what we are doing, system.out.println within the round braces, if name, we are calling that parameters plus, we are concatenating is plus age. That means what? We are concatenating with is, with the f name is that age. Two parameter I have passed and I have concatenated with each other with a string. Now we are here, we are passing public static void main string args within that main method block. That means just because here we have passed two parameter, that means in the time of whenever I am calling that method, that time we need to declare, we need to give two arguments for the two parameters, and one as a string type, one is a integer type. So in the time of calling of that method, that my method we are calling here, and within that round braces, what we are doing within the double quote, we are declaring up arguments. That first argument is for the f name, and that is a string type, and the second argument for the age, that is a integer type. That's why I have declared as integer type. And again, the three times I have multiple times I have called that particular method, and each and every time I have given separate arguments for the two parameters. So now tell me, whenever I will execute that exam, what will be the output? Anyone, please tell me, what will be the output of that particular program?
Liam is 5, Jean is 8, Anja is 31.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
because
It's
that
right.
f name is age, f name plus is plus age. That whole thing will be the whole thing. That means Liam in the place of f name, that Liam plus is plus age. That means age is 5. That means Liam is 5, Jenny is 8, Anja is 31. You can pass not only one, two, you can pass multiple parameter as you like. Is it clear to everyone? Even only 2%
Yes.
are responding in
Yes, sir.
response.
Yes, sir.
6% are
Yes, sir.
not responding anything.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Note that when you are working with multiple parameters, the method call must have the same number of arguments as there are parameters. So that means what it is saying, the number of parameter you are passing here, the same number of arguments have to be passed here. And whatever the data type you are passing here, that whatever that argument data type have to match with each and every parameters. Return values. In that previous example, how we are creating, that is static void my method. That means what? That method we have created that don't have any kind of fixed return type like int or string or anything. Like here we are string if name int age. That means what? We can pass any type of data into that particular method, because that is a void method. That means that method we have created that don't have any kind of return type. That method don't have any kind of return type. Now we are coming to that a method with a return value. Now let's see the method. The void keyword used in example above indicates that method should not return a value. If you want the method to return a value, you can use a primitive data type. There are 8 primitive data type, that is int, string, float, double, char. That there are 8 primitive data type. Instead of void, use the return keyword inside the method. Okay, now let's see how to create a method with a return type and how to use that method. Now, public class main, that is the mandatory thing. We have to create a class, and within that class block we need to create the method. Static int, instead of using void, you are using a data type, that is a integer type, that is it is a return type as integer type. That means that method you are creating using int, that method can only return a integer type data. Okay, you are just particularly you are mentioning that method can only a integer type data. Static void my method, instead of static int my method is the name. Under that, then the within the round braces we are passing a parameters. We have created, we have passed a parameter, that is integer x. Why integer x? And that have to be integer type because the return type I have declared as an integer. So int x. Within that round braces, what we are doing, return. We are using that return keyword. Within the using the return keyword 5 plus x. 5 plus x, that means return 5 plus x, 5 plus value of x. Whatever the value we will declare in the time of calling of the method, that time the value plus x. That time, that's just because this is the integer time, that time that plus will do the addition, that will not do the concatenation, because that we are, that is a integer type data. Now, after giving, after created the method as an integer return type, and I'm using the return keyword, we are returning the 5 plus value of x. Now, that method we have created, that method we have to call that particular method. Until and unless we are not calling that method, we can't get any kind of output from that method. So if we want to get any kind of output from that method, so we need to call that. And whenever you are using any return type, that time how you will call that method? Public static void main string args, that is the main method. Under that main method, system.out.println, within the round braces we are calling that method, and value of x we need to declare, and that the same thing we are declaring in that method, calling method. This is the syntax. System.out.println my method, and that arguments we are passing here, that is the value of x is 3. So what will be the output? That will, whenever you will execute that program, the output will be 5
8.
plus x, that is 8. And my method, within that round, suppose that, look, one thing you just notice, that print ln, this is what? This is the predefined method. Within that predefined method, that println, within that round braces we need to call that method, and that should not be within that, you can't put it within the double quote, because that is not a string, that is the name of the method. Whenever you are calling the method directly, that time you don't need to use that double quote. Okay, within that method, that println method, that round brace, under the round braces you need to call that method, that my method. Then the round braces you need to give the arguments for the parameters, and whenever you will execute, that will return you 5 plus x, that is 8. Is it clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Execute
Yes, sir.
execute that example.
Done, sir.
Okay. Are you getting the output that out 8 you are getting, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I have also changed the value.
Okay, very good. That same example with the that we having return type with multiple parameters. Public class main static int my method is the method name that having a that method name is the my method and that method having a return type as a integer type and two data type there are two parameter we have passed, one is x, one is y, and both are the integer type because the return type is integer type. Now return x plus y within the method block we are returning x plus y. Okay. Public static void main string args system.out.println within the round braces we are calling that method, that is the name of that method is my method, and within the round braces of that here we are passing two arguments because we have declared two parameters, one is x, one is y, so both are the integer type, so we need to declare two arguments for the two parameters. So one I have declared as 5, one as 3. So whenever we will execute that particular program, just we have called that method. That means it will return you the whatever the code is available in the method block that will be executed, and within that method block we have returned that a value of x and value of y as a addition, and the addition will be 8. Okay. Another example, you can also store the result in a separate variable. How? Public class main static int my method having an integer type return integer return type we have created a method that name is my method. Integer x, integer y, that means what? Two parameter we have passed. Within that method block, we are returning that x plus y. Public static void main string args main method we have created. Under that main method block, what we are doing here, we are in the previous example what we are doing directly we are calling that particular method and we are passing that two arguments to that two parameters. Here what we are doing, integer z equals to my method 5 and 3. Integer z I have declared a variable that is an integer type and that having a name is z. I have declared a normal variable declaration. Normal variable declaration we are declared, that is an integer data type and that is a z variable name equals to, in the place of value what we are doing, we are calling the method my method 5 and 3, two arguments for the two parameters. That means what, we have assigned that value of x and value of y to that z. Now whenever, that means what, whatever the thing is available into that my method, that thing I have assigned to the z. So whenever I will call that z, that method will return you x plus y, that is 8. That is 8. Just we are assigning that method value to that z. So whenever I will call z, that method will be execute and that will execute as a return 5 plus 8 because x for the 5 for the x, y 3 for the y. That total will be 8 will be executed in your screen. Is it clear? Are you getting
Yes,
it?
sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Up to this, anyone having any issue? Up to
No,
that,
sir.
that method part will be have been I have completed that method part. Any problem, any um, problem regarding that method, because method is most important topic in Java. You need to clear all the concept of method. Is it clear up to this, that whatever the example we have done, we have done that example have been cleared everything, na? So we are moving to the next topic.
Yes, sir.
We are moving to the
A
next,
method. If
a method with if else.
Hmm.
We are passing single parameters, we are passing multiple parameters. We have passed non-return type, we have created non-return type method, we have created return type method. Now we will create a method with if else. If else we have done previously. So now we are creating a method with if else. How we can? Public class main, I have a class we have created. Under the class block, under that class block, static void check age, integer age. That means what? Static void. We have created a method that
Method.
don't have any kind of return type. That is a void type
Okay.
method. That means that don't have any return type. And the name is check age. And int age, that is the parameter.
Parameter.
And under that method block, what we are using the if else. If that value of age isn't declared yet, but if the value of age is less than 18, system.out.println access denied, you are not old enough. Look, within the method block, we are using the if else statement that we have learned previously, that if else statement that we have learned. If the age is less than 18, that time it to print access denied, you are not old enough. If that condition is become true, only if that condition is true, then it will be execute that access denied, you are not old enough. If that part is became false, that time it will print the else part, access granted, you are old enough. Up to that, is it clear? Within that method we are done. Just we have created a method that is that having a that we have parameter we have passed, that is an integer type, and under that if we have given a condition, if the age is less than 18, that time it will print the if block, that is access denied, you are not old enough. If that age is greater than 18, that means that condition is become true, false, that time it will execute the else part, system.out.println access granted, you are old enough. Is that part is clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have created the method. Under that we have created the we have used that if else. Now we need to, until and unless we are not calling that method will not return you anything. So we need to call that method. And another thing, int age, that parameter we have passed, we need to give our arguments to that parameter. So in the time of calling of that method, we are need to declare the arguments. So for that we will do under the main method block. Public static void main string args, the main method we have created. Under that main method block, we are calling that particular method, and we have passed the arguments, we have passed the argument for that particular parameter, that is 20. That 20 is belongs to the integer age that having that parameter. That age having that parameter argument is there, we are passing in the time of calling of that method. So whenever you will execute that particular program, what will be the output? What will be the output?
Access generated, you are old enough.
Yeah, access
granted,
granted,
you are old enough.
because the value of age is what? The value of age is 20.
Greater than 18.
Whenever that method it is entering, we are calling that method, that time it is entering the method block, and whenever it entered the method block, it is getting, there is a if else statement, and there a condition we have passed, that is if the age is less than 18. That means the value of age is what? The value of age is 20.
20.
20 is less than 18. No, that condition is
No.
become false. So it will not enter the if block, that
If
will
block.
enter the else part, that if that because this the program here, this condition is false, so it will execute the else part and it will print the access granted, you are old enough. If I change that value to 10, that time that if condition is became true, because that
Hmm.
age is now 10 and 10 is less than 18. Yes, that condition is true. So at that time it will execute that if block, because until and unless that condition is become true, then only if block will be executed. If that condition is became false, that time else block will be executed. Okay, is it clear everyone? That is very good
Yes, sir.
example. And
Yes, perfect.
everyone please execute that example. Each and everyone, only 2% are giving response. I don't know the rest of the person who have joined, they are practicing that particular code right now, or yes or no, that I really don't know. If you are not practicing, that means you are doing sacrifice for yourself. Only learning is not the everything. You need to practice it from your end. Otherwise, you will forget everything. So everyone, please execute that program.
তো যখন ওই ভ্যালুটা মানে আমরা 18 দেবো, মানে 18 দেবো, তখন কি আউটপুটটা কি আসবে?
কি আসবে? 18 ইজ লেস দেন 18। 18 কি 18 থেকে ছোট?
না,
না,
ফলস। ওল্ড এনাফ আসবে। ওকে, ফলস হলে এলসে ঢুকবে।
Yes, sir. Done.
Okay. And rest
Yes
of
sir, done.
rest everyone have
Done
completed
sir,
that.
done.
Okay.
Yes sir.
So we are going to the next topic. Now we have entered the oops concept now. That is Java method overloading. That is the polymorphism. That method overloading. What is that method overloading? That means what each for you are creating each and every program, you are creating a class, and that class you are giving separate name. Every variable that you are creating within the class, you are giving separate name to that class, that variable. The every array that you are creating, you are giving separate name to your array. Like the method that you are creating, you are giving separate name to your method. Suppose in the previous example that we have learned, we have created only one method, but as per your need, if there is a need to create 3 4 method, that is a need. So that time you need to give separate name to your separate method. But Java method overloading is what? Java method overloading, that is, you can create multiple method using the same name. That means you are creating 3 4 5 6 method, but that each and every method name is same, but their method are different. And how you can differentiate that method? Within that method that you are declaring multiple method with the same name, but you need to declare the parameters, and that parameters, how you will differentiate with between that method that having the same name in terms of parameters. The data type of that parameter that you are passing into your method, that parameter data type have to be different. That method name you are creating, suppose you are creating 5 methods with the same name, you can give the same name, but how you will differentiate with each other by giving the different data type to the different method. Let's see the example how you can do that method overloading. Here we are creating int my method integer x, float my method float x. Look at that. That method double my method double x double y. That means what? Look at that method name. That method name is same, but the data type is different. Just
Different.
because the data type is different, you can differentiate each and every method. Maybe the name is same, but the data type is different. That means the methods are different. And by giving the different data type and giving the same name, that is called method overloading. Now see the example. Consider the following example which has two methods that add numbers of different type. Two methods we have created, and how static int plus method, integer x integer y. That means why that method we have created that having a return type that is integer type. Method name is plus method. Two parameters we have passed, and now we are returning x plus y. Static double plus method double x double y, and another method we have created that have a double return type, and the name is same, that is plus method. Now we have passed two parameters as double data type double x double y, return x plus y. That method will return using the return keyword. We are returning x plus y. Two method we have created with the same name, but the data type and the parameter data type passed, that is the difference. Public static void main string args. Now we need to call that method and we need to give the arguments to that parameter. So we need to call that method within the main method block. So first of all, we need to create the main method. Under that block of that main method, integer my_num1 equals to plus method 8 5. We are declaring a variable. You have created a variable under that my_num is 1 is the variable that we have declared, that is an integer data type, and we are passing that plus method integer x integer y that we are passing to that, assigning to that my_num1, and double data type and my_num2 another variable name is my_num2 having double data type. Into that my_num2 we are passing the second double plus method, that double x double y, that method we are assigning to that my_num2, and I am declaring two arguments for the two parameters. One for the integer x integer y, that is 8 and 5, double x double y, that is 4.6.26. Double, what will double return? Double will return you the boolean value, that is point value that will return. Sorry, dear, for poor internet. I was disconnected just because of the internet connection. So up to where you have you have understand? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Static int plus method integer x integer y. One method having two methods that we have declared that having the same name, and the data type. One is a integer type, one is the double type, and the parameters integer x integer y and double x double y. Now in that is that having a return type, that method we have created that having a return type that is an integer, so it will return you x plus y, the value of x and value of y, and another value, that method will return you x plus y that having a double return type. Now we have created the method, we have passed the parameter. Until and unless we are not calling that method, we can't use that method. We can't get any output from that method. So we need to call that method. And another thing, in the time that when we are calling that method, that time we need to give the arguments for the parameter that we have passed to that method. So, and that we can do, that we need to do under the main method block. So we need to create the main method, that is public static void main string args. Under that main method block, what we are doing, int my num1, a normal variable we are creating, we are declaring a normal variable, that is a data type is integer type, and my num1 is the name of your variable. Into that my num1, what we are doing, we are passing, we are assigning that plus method integer x integer y to that my num1. That plus method integer having integer return type, that method we are passing, we are assigning to that my num1. And the double my plus method that having a double return type, that method we are assigning to that my num2. And that time we are declaring the arguments for the two parameters, 8 and 5 for the integer x integer y, 4.3 and 6.26 for the double x double y. And double what double will double return the boolean value, that is point value. So we need to give some point value to that. So we have given 4.3, 6.26. Now we are, that means what, we have assigned that method to that my num1 and that my num2. Now whenever I am executing the program, I am writing that system.out.println, and I am calling that variable, that variable will return you the value of that two methods, because that two methods we have assigned to that variable. So whenever I will call that two variable, that will return you the method value. So what in that place, what we have done, system.out.println within the double quotes int, that means that will be printed as it is, plus my num1, the value of my num1, and double my num2. So whenever you will print it, that will return you the method block. Is it clear to everyone? Hello?
Yes, yes.
Sir.
Sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Everyone, please execute that example. And before doing that example, first of all, you need to what? You need to create the class. Within that class block, you need to do all the things. Okay. First of all, you create the class. Then you in the class block, you do that thing.
Yes, sir. Done, sir.
Everyone done?
Hello.
Hello, everyone done?
Done, sir.
So we are moving to the next exam.
Okay, sir.
Java recursion. Okay, the topic is next topic is the Java recursion. Recursion is the technique of making a function call itself. Recursion is a technique of making a function call itself. This technique provides a way to break complicated program down into simple problems which are easier to solve. Recursion may be a bit difficult to understand. The best way to figure out how it works is so experiment with it. So directly I am going to the recursion to that. Adding two numbers together is easy to do, but adding a range of numbers is more complicated. In the following example, recursion is used to add a range number together by breaking it down into the simple task of adding two numbers. Recursion, what is that recursion? How we can do that recursion? Public class main, that class we have created. Public static void means string args that we have, that main method we have declared. Under that main method, int result equals to sum3. Int result equals to sum, and that is that having a value is 3. System.out.println, that is result. Public static int sum integer k, and within that if, that means what? Public static int sum. Public static int sum, that is what? That is a method. That method is sum and having a parameter that is k, integer k, and that means sum is what? That declared, that integer k I have declared previously, that is 3. If 3 less than 3 greater than 0, return k plus, that means 3 plus sum k minus 1, that means 3 minus 1. That means what? 3 minus 1 is 2. K is 3 plus 3 minus 1. That means 2. That means 3 plus 2 is 5. Else return 0. Else return 0. Are you getting? That integer result equals to sum 3 we have declared already. The value of that parameters, that arguments we have passed here. We have passed here. Now we are checking if the value of k, that arguments is 3, 3 is less than 0. This is, that condition is 3 is greater than 0. This condition is true. That time it will return you 3 plus 2, that is 5 will be returned. And if the condition is become false, that time it will return you the 0. That simple program. Is it clear? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Java class and objects. Java class and objects. Java is an object-oriented programming language. Everything in Java is associated with class and object, along with its attribute and methods. For example, the real life, a car is an object. The car has attribute such as weight and color, and the method such as drive and brake. Oh, I'm just directly getting to that. Creating a class. To create a class, use the keyword class. That we all know how to create a class. Public class main, by using that class keyword, you can create the class. Main is the name of that class. Under that, we are just declared a normal variable. Creating an object. Now we all know how to create a class. Now, how to create an object? How to create an object? In Java, an object-oriented that an object is created from a class. From a class, you can create an object. We have already created a class named main. Yes. So now we can use this to create objects. So what is class object? You can create object from a class. To create an object, and what is that object? Object is the instance of a class. That means without using the class name, by using that object name, you can call that particular program also. That means what? Instead of class name, using the object name, you can do the same thing. You can call the class. So that means what? What is that object? Object is the instance of a class. Now that main class we are creating, we are creating a object. And how to create an object? See that example. Public class main, that main class I have created. Int x equals to 5. A integer type data type. X is the variable name, 5 is the value. A normal variable we have declared. Public static void main string args main method we have created. Under that main method, we are creating the object. We are creating the object. Now, what is the syntax of creating the object? Main is the class name. That means you need to give a class name, then the object name, and that object name you can give any name, but that class name have to be the, you need to pass that name, that for the class you are creating the object. That means we are creating the object for that main class, that having that name, that main for that particular main class, we are creating the object for that main class. So we need here, we need to give the class name. After giving the class name, you need to give the object name, and that object name you can give any name here as an object name. Then equals to, then you need to use that new keyword, then the main, and then the round braces. Then the round braces. That means what? You are writing the class name, then the object name equals to new, then again the class name, and then the round braces. And I have already told you that whenever you have seen that round braces is there, that is the method, but that is same as class name, right? Same, that you are writing that class name, and that is called constructor. We will learn it later, but try to remember that syntax, that line of syntax. Class name, object name can be anything, you can give any object name, but the class name you have to mention that class name, that for the class you are creating the object. That means the class name, then the object name, then equals to new keyword, then the again the class name and the round braces, and then the termination symbol. This is the syntax of creating an object. This is the syntax. Try to, every time whenever you are, anyone is asking you, that is the syntax for creating an object. Here you can change only the object name, and each and every time you need to mention that particular class name. For that class name you are creating the object for, the particular class you are creating the object for, that particular class, that class name you need to give here and that here. Okay, that two places, in that two places you need to give the class name. For that class name you are creating the object for. Here we are creating the object for that main class. That's why we have write that main here and that here. That means what? What is the syntax of object creation? Class name, object name equals to new keyword, again the class name and the round braces open and close, then the termination sign. That is the syntax of creating an object. Two places, the in that particular two, at the starting and at the ending you need to give the class name. At the first of all you need to give the class name, then the object name can be anything, then the equals to, then new keyword, then the main, and then the round braces. That is the syntax of creating the object. And then after creating the object, that my obj is the object name. Now the object have been created for that particular class. Now what we are, how we can use that system.out.println, system.out.println my obj, the object name dot x. So whenever you are calling that my obj dot x, my obj, that means that object name dot x, that means that x, and that x is under where, that x I have, that variable I have created under the main class, that class main, under that class block I have created that variable. And what is that object? Object is the instead of a class. Instead of using the class name, I am using the object name. I'm using the object name, and with that object name dot x, that means that object name I am calling, that object name I'm using, that means I'm using the class name. Class name, both are the same, but we can't directly call that particular class name. We need to call through the object. We need to call through the object. We can't call directly the class name. We can't call. So how we can call? We can call through the object of that class. So I am calling that object my obj dot x. That means using that object name, we are calling that x. Within using the, by using that object name, we are calling that x by like that way. System.out.println my obj dot x. That means whenever you will execute that example, you will get the output as 5. Is it clear to everyone? Hello?
Yes, sir.
And that is the syntax. Everyone, please
Yes,
remember
sir.
syntax. That is the syntax of creating an object. Class name, then you need to give any object name, then equals to new keyword, and again that class name and that parenthesis for the timing. And remember, that is the constructor. For the timing, that is the constructor. And what is the constructor? Why this is, why it is here, and why it is same name as your class name? Why the name is same with that class name? Constructor for the timing, for the timing in that previous topic was the method. Constructor is also a method. Constructor, that constructor we are writing here, that main and that round, because I have told you that whenever you are seeing, you have seen that round braces open closed with after any name, you have seen that round braces is there, open and closed. That means that is the method. But here I am saying that is the constructor. And what is the constructor? Let me tell you. Constructor, constructor is the special type of method. Constructor is the special type of method. That method name have the same name as the class name. The constructor is again a special type of method, that name having the same name as class name. That means what? Constructor, and another thing, that constructor, that special method that I'm calling that constructor, that special type of method, you don't need to create that special method. Whenever you are creating a class, that time the constructor is also you are creating. Maybe you have you are not creating it separately, but with the class you are creating it, but you can't see that particular, but that constructor, you can't see that constructor, but you are not creating that constructor, you can't see that constructor, but you are creating the constructor that you don't know. In the time of creating the class, you are creating the constructor, because, and that constructor is what? That constructor is the special type of method that having a same name as the class name. we have a separate chapter for that constructor for the timing, so you guys can understand, because I have told you that whenever you have seen that round basis is there, that means that is the method. But here we have used the class name after that, that round basis is there. it it can make you confused. So that's why I am totally telling you, main, that is the class name. My obj, that's the name of the object that I have given here as my obj. That name you can give any name, then equals to, then new keyword, then you need to give the constructor, and that constructor is a method, and that method name is always, each and every time, the constructor name will be same as your class name. Constructor name and the class name, always they are same. That's why
It is always the same.
it is always the same. That's why this is a constructor. Just because the name, that constructor name and the class name both are the same, that's why this is the constructor. And there is a separate chapter. If you are not getting that constructor wala thing, it's okay, no problem. There is a separate chapter for that constructor. For the timing, you just remember that is the constructor. Never say that this is the class name. Never say that this is the class name, because this is wrong. Maybe lots of people know that as the class name, but this is not the class, this is the constructor. Okay. And why this is the constructor, I am saying, I will give it as a proof. That is a constructor, and in the time when we will do the constructor chapter, constructor tutorials, that time I will give you the proof that is the constructor. Okay. For the timing, that means for that main is the class name. That class name, you are giving that class name. For that class name, you are creating the object. For that class, you are creating the object. That class name you need to give here. After that, you need to give the object name. That object name can be anything. You can give any object name, but equals to new keyword you need to use after that, that constructor. And that constructor is what? Same as class name, and the method syntax, that the round basis is the identification. That is the identification. That is that round basis is open close is the identification mark of I knowing, identifying a method. Okay, that is the syntax. After that, system out of println and my obj. Why? If anyone, please try to do one thing. Do not create any object. Okay. Public class main, then you create that class, that variable, then don't need to create an any object, and then system out of println and you don't write that object name, just call that variable. What is the output, you please tell me. Just keep that two things. Don't create that object and don't use that object name. Rest of the thing like the same. In please try to run that program and execute it and tell me what is the output you are getting. After creating the class, declare the variable. Without creating the object and without using the object name, try to execute that same program. Is it done? Hello? Anyone have run
Yes
that?
sir. Yes sir, প্রবলেম রান করছে না,
করছে না।
প্রোগ্রাম রান করছে না।
That program will not
হুম,
be run because why it will
সেকেন্ড
not be
সেকেন্ড
executed? No, because that variable you have declared not it under the main block, main method block, right?
হ্যাঁ মেইন মেথড। ইয়েস স্যার,
That means that
সেকেন্ড লাইনে ভুল দেখাচ্ছি।
that method you have declared that is not in under the main method that you have
মেইন
declared
মেথড।
within the class block. Now, just because for accessing this kind of variable, that's why I just wanted to differentiate that why you need to use that object. Now you use the create the object. Now you using the object name try to execute that example.
ইয়েস স্যার, অলমোস্ট।
Are you getting the output now?
ইয়েস স্যার।
Yes, now you are getting the output. Now are you getting what is the use of that object? That means
5
that you getting the output as 5. Why? Without creating the object, you can't access that particular variable because that is under the class block, not under the main method block. But in the previous example, in the previous session, that variable we have declared within the main method. That's why when
main method block.
within the main method block, that's why you don't need to use any kind of object and all. You can directly call that method, you just directly call that variable, and that what the output will be executed in your screen. But that variable you have declared, that is not in under the main method block, that is under the class block only. So that means that object that you are creating, that what is an object? Object is the instance of a class. That means you are mentioning that my obj, that means the class name have that object of that class name under the class that x equals to 5 is available, that you are mentioning here using the object. You can call that class name directly. So you can write that without creating any object. If you are writing the class name that main.x, that the way you can't do that. In that way you can't do that. That's why we can't call any class directly, right? We can call method, we can call object, we can call arrays, but we can't call any class. We can't call any class. But for calling the class, we need to create the object of that class. That's why it is saying that object is the instance of a class. Instance of calling the class name directly, we are creating the object using the we are creating the object for the class name using the object name. Using that object name, we are calling the class. That means what? The object is the instance of a class. So just because we can't call the class directly, that's why for calling the class, we need to create the object for that class. And by using the object name, you can call that class. You are mentioning that class. And that my obj is the object of that main class, and that x equals to 5, that is available in the class block. That's why using the object name, I am mentioning that under the class block that x is available. Please give me the output, the value of x. That is the plain syntax. Is it clear now? Use of object. how to create an object, why you need to create the object. Anyway,
Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
okay,
Clear, sir.
okay. So that was the last topic for today. That creating an object. Remember, try to remember that syntax, because in the interview that will be asked, most of the time that will be asked, that how to create an object. Okay. In the next session, the first topic will be what? The first topic will be the multi-dimensional array. Then we will start from the multiple objects. You can create multiple objects of a class, not a single object. Multiple objects you can create. Okay. Please note down. The first topic will be the multi-dimensional array,
Multi-dimensional array.
and then we will start the that is the multiple objects.
Multiple.
Okay. So I am ending the
Okay, sir.
session here. In the next session, we will start again. So let me
Okay, sir.
stop the sharing. Let me stop the recording.